Hi everybody, I wanted to give you an example of what it might look like to take what you guys are talking about in terms of manifestations, observations, and attitudes and trying to fit it into the questions that I have suggested that you try to look at when you're doing your gender analysis of the organization. So if you look at these orange comments that you all made, these are from week 1, and I've taken a couple of these and put them in a couple places. So, for example, in Toya's first comment about what works for about motherhood and that's a bias men don't have to think about, that could actually be under our core issues differently valued. In other words, are the processes and the objectives of the organization valued over being a mother, or is being a mother considered a liability with respect to business goals and organizational goals? So while that's not specifically a core issue of the organization, it is a core issue in terms of how the organization sees who's valuable in a workplace. In addition, when we look at Mac's comment in blue here, that's from the week 2, it talks about how there are just very few CEOs or executive officers. And essentially, that could be an implication for who works on what core issues in the organization. So one of the things that you might do is you might look at, okay, is there a board of trustees? If not, is there an executive team? What is the management level of people? And by gender, who kind of occupies those particular positions? For example, in a university athletics, you might look at student athlete academic services, and is there one gender or another with respect to those kinds of processes, and therefore who takes care of issues that arise with respect to academics, and look at that in a gender sort of way. So that's one example there. We'll go on to slide 2 here in a minute. So anyway, I just wanted to give you an example of how you can start taking your own manifestations, observations, and really fitting them into kind of helping you understand what would answers to these questions look like, or what would you be looking for. So I haven't put these orange ones into questions, so that might be a good thing for you to do. And for the observations that were made in week 3, you might continue that process to help you really start thinking about your organization. And if you haven't told me what it is yet, make sure you do. Happy reading, and I'll get to reading all the comments and discussion in those gradings later this week in the next couple days. And always never hesitate to reach out if you got questions. Bye. At the same time, too, we might also look at Toya's comment again and say, you know what, it might also be answering a question if we're considering this motherhood bias. Has that actually been analyzed in the organization? Are there differences between men and women? And what differences have been analyzed? For example, has maternity leave versus paternity leave been analyzed in your organization? So this particular manifestation might help us look at this particular question. Okay. From the second week, in terms of willing to take risk, or leaders and visionaries, from Livia's comment, in which women are less likely to view themselves. This could also be a cultural attitude, but in other words, have any of these particular things ever been analyzed? In other words, who is actually applying for different jobs? Are women coming to the table with respect to saying that I'm a leader and I would like a leadership position? And are they actually applying? So again, here's how you could take this comment and say, how could it help inform me about these kinds of things? And here we're going to see that Minchell's comment in terms of the notion that ambition is positively used for men, but not often for women. could help us describe an organizational culture. So, in other words, is ambition specifically seen as masculine, and are women really quite unique or differentially described if they happen to be ambitious? And look for instances in which those kinds of things are different. So this would be one example of how that might be different. There are actually quite a few, and many of your examples could fit largely under this particular question.